Hello?
Hello, is this Mr. Scarrow?
This is...
Hey, this is Sergeant Stahn with the Sheriff's Office.
Oh,
I wanted
Stahn.
to give you a call back here.
So are you the
So,
sergeant on duty today for Waconia?
yes, sir.
Okay.
So, I wanted to provide, I understand you wanted some context with regards to the two officers that were on Lennox Drive. Is that correct?
Correct. Why are they staring into my backyard? And yesterday.
So, I can't speak for yesterday. I have to look up that call.
Okay.
I can speak for today's. I wasn't on duty yesterday.
Okay.
Today at 11:17, our office received a report of loud music coming from your home. So as to not sit directly in front of your residence. At times, we will often park on Lennox when we do receive these complaints. So the officer parked in that area, listened, did not hear anything. I was the other one who responded out there to ensure that this deputy, who is not as familiar with the calls for service that we've had to your home in the past, wanted to make sure that it was handled properly. I came out and spoke with him, who informed me that when he had arrived, he could very faintly hear music, but moments later that the music was turned off. He said that he received a call back from the original complainant, who stated that you had apparently just recently returned home and the music was turned off completely. The deputy asked if he should come to your front door. I said absolutely not, and then we both left the area.
Okay. So yesterday my wife almost died from an overdose of suicide because of the
Yep.
constant harassment. So I need you guys to go to... I can't force you to. It's you. Nobody would listen to me anyway. But how do you guys stop our neighbors from calling us on you? Or what steps are you guys going to take next to say, no, that wasn't a reasonable call. You guys cannot call us 10 times a day? Because from what you just observed yourself, 99% of the time, that's the level we have the music in our house at. Either my kids dancing, either listening to opera or practicing singing, because we do have people that play instruments in this house. We do have people that sing professionally in this house. What am I allowed to do in my house? Because we've hit the point where my wife almost died yesterday because of the harassment. And unfortunately, you guys are being used as a tool for this. How is this going to stop? When are we protected? Because at the end of the day, you could pull up I've actually have the FOIA request. There's been almost 300 pages of calls of service in the last couple years. Specifically, the last 6 months, there's been almost 200 pages worth of calls. And a lot of those are noise complaints, but nothing's ever been done to stop our neighbors and saying, hey, this isn't a legitimate call. You guys need to not call over this, because we didn't do anything wrong. We didn't break any laws. We are simply practicing our music. My kids might be listening to music, practicing their dancing routine. And this is the best part. Our neighbors are in those dance groups too, and they know we're practicing because they can hear the same music. Yet they choose to call you guys for that. So at what point are we protected? Because this is getting serious.
So what I'll say is, I know that when you talk about the pages of calls, I'm looking at it actually right now. In the last 1 year, to just your address, or that's listed as the call for service unit, it's been 64 calls in the last year.
That you guys,
which is a lot of calls.
Cincos
So I will say that we have had
our residents contacting them
conversations with a lot
directly.
of the neighbors. I mean, especially early on, about what is worth calling in and what's not.
Okay, but at
the end of the day, though, here I'll finish this.
Okay.
I'll finish my point here. At the end of the day, what it kind of boiled down to is, we said, to the point where it's actually creating a disturbance, right? If it's just loud and they just don't like it, and we've told them, like, we won't take enforcement action. I mean, to be fair here, Mr. Scarrow, we received a call today. We investigated it. There was no crime, and we left. So, we're not actually, we had no involvement with you whatsoever. We were just in your neighborhood, and you're calling in, presuming, in this case, correctly, that there was a call for service. I don't believe that in the last month we've had a single call since, I believe, the day before Thanksgiving. Looking at it here, it looks like November 18th was the last call for service that we had for you prior to yesterday.
Yeah, can I?
A lot of that has to go ahead.
Yep, I can interject on that point, because I've looked at the reports and everything else, and some of the body cam footage and everything else. Cinco and some of your other deputies, I'm blanking on the names right now,
Buckington.
Buckington and a few others, they actually told our neighbors directly to contact them via their department issued cell phones and to purposely not call 911 because for some reason they think we're monitoring a website that I have no idea what it is or exists, and we're looking out for the calls. So just because there's been over a month since somebody's actually called on us, that doesn't necessarily mean true because
But you were here yesterday.
because you guys got a call yesterday, and then I've also seen around the neighborhood several times while I've been out and about doing things with my kids and they're outside making noise, I've observed other cars parked either on Lennox or driving through very slowly or driving down my block. And let's be realistic, there's very little crime here to the point where I see you guys way too often. My first couple years living here, when we built this house, I saw you guys once a month on average, maybe. Now I see you guys once every day on average. So I know that your deputies, and I know they report to you, have specifically told our neighbors that they are to contact them via directly their phones. And you guys, I saw it on one of the other reports. You guys internally say it into your own computer system so no call goes over live over the net for some weird reason. I monitor a website that I have no idea what it is or exists because one of my neighbors mentioned it to one of your other deputies. So I'm gonna
provide some context to that.
Yes, please, because it's a little ridiculous that they're going this far to try to get us, and we're just simply existing in our own home.
So here's the context behind all of that. Okay, so we would receive a call for service, right? Somebody would call in and say that they're playing their music and it's way too loud. It's very disruptive. I can hear it in my home and I have all the windows closed, like plain as day, right? So that might be an example of a type of call that we get. It would come out, they would get dispatched to let's say, a noise complaint, St. George Street, and then we acknowledge it, and then we respond to the call. What ends up happening is, in a lot of those cases, is as we would be on our way, the music would stop. And the neighbors then were thinking, okay, they might be, like, how is this happening every time we're calling? Within minutes of us calling this in, now all of a sudden the music has stopped. So they're trying to think of what's a logical explanation for this.
So you're accusing us of this?
Possibly either.
So are we being
whether it be either you or Nicole just turned off the music and moved on, or they thought maybe that they are listening to a scanner. Maybe they are. The county does have a web page which shows all of our live calls for service.
So you're accused us of
that are happening. So
okay.
Going further up the chain, we received the direction to have our dispatchers do a more silent dispatch option in the event that was happening too, so we could actually investigate if whether or not what is taking place was criminal. And like you said, overwhelmingly, it hasn't been. There have been some instances where we have made the determination that we felt like it has crossed that line, but overall, while trying to respect you guys as well, because I just want to be very clear about this one thing. We do not want, like you said, the neighbors are calling and we are just responding, right? That's what our job is. We get the calls and we respond.
You accused us.
Yeah, but
you accused us.
Let me finish. But at the end of the day, we're still being accused. We're still being treated differently. They make a call, and you guys have taken extra steps to try to get us. And that might not be the way you perceive it, but that's the way it's being perceived here.
Sergeant Stahn, you straight up accused us of watching and penalizing. You just accused us of watching and penalizing to get around the law system. Sergeant Stahn, I believe this conversation has gotten to a breach. If you feel you are on notice now, if you feel you need to investigate anything about my family, we have 3 attorneys. You contact my husband's attorney, you contact my attorney, and then you contact our attorney that's gearing up to sue not only the city, but your entire part. You just admitted that you worked with our neighbors to try to catch us and accused us of a crime without ever telling us. And you are a shame to the uniform. Stahn, this is the second time you have stalked us. Get off of our phone. You are on notice that anything you do to us is now perceived as harassment. You literally just accused us on a recorded line that you believed because our neighbors said so, yet you have never investigated a single thing our neighbors have asked that we have asked you to investigate. I can't believe he just accused you of that crime.
Yeah. And then also, why haven't if plenty of them you did because you basically admitted that you treated us differently because you perceived that we were somehow
because the neighbor
said we were monitoring something that we don't even know exists. You know what? We might do something where we're doing a kid's dance for 20 minutes. We do the dance and then they're done. The music shuts off because you know what? They're taking
stop the conversation with them.
I mean, there's plenty of other logical. If you want to go logical here,
he's trying to be PC here. He broke the law. We are going after his qualified immunity.
Yeah. And then I also want to know if any of the neighbors actually been charged with filing a false police report.
No, they have not.
Okay, thank you.
So it's just us that you mail citations to.
That's the end of my conversation.
What about the neighbors who recorded us on private property? Because I know for a fact that, and our lawyers have stated for a fact, that our neighbors cannot record a private conversation between a husband and wife. You signed that police report. When did you go after my neighbors for being peeping toms and recording a private conversation on our private property? Did you do that?
They were on their own property.
But they were recording our conversation on our private property, and that is on court law that we are deemed and we can expect all privacy within our private property. So therefore, them holding their phone up is no different than them leaving their phone and wiretapping, because your own attorney stated that it was a wiretap. So where was your warrant to even wiretap us?
Okay, that's
exactly.
Everything.
When are we going to talk about the peeping toms? When will we get an investigator assigned to us for the people who are peeping toms and recording things? When will we get that investigated?
And then when are our neighbors actually going to get held accountable for shouting at us from their back decks while recording us? Because we have video evidence of that too as well. I also have evidence. Well, I have witnesses because I don't. It's hard to catch on camera. But my neighbor, who likes to say we're being vulgar, flips us off every single time she drives by our home. So what is that considered disorderly conduct?
Or the neighbor who feared
flipped us off several times as we're just driving.
How about the neighbor across the street who feared? How about the excuse me, sir, since you interviewed the Dahlbecks, how about the Dahlbecks who every time I go out to get my mail, her husband comes and stands right behind me within 15 feet? Because I know how you took that, talking about body positivity. She was the one that actually started talking about my body, but you never took my statement on that about how it felt about neighbors talking about how I dressed in my own house. You have never treated us equally underneath the law, Stahn. This is what I am trying to tell you. You have never treated us equally as your other constituents. We are telling you here, we have 3 different times of things that should be investigated that you have not investigated. We have had a neighbor before threatened to shoot our child that we called several times, and you guys called 7 years later and then said, oh, well, yeah, freedom of speech, except then on your police report that you submitted to the court stated that you guys actually never did investigate it. So Stahn, stop playing the political bullshit. When do we get the investigations on the crimes that have happened against us? And if you're not going to assign a detective on it, I'm going to assume that you are just going to say, it's okay, they're the Mexican Loud family that I don't really like, and I'm not going to take any of their complaints seriously, because the way this works, Stahn, citizen, I'm above you. I have a complaint about you and the way you're cops. I almost killed myself yesterday because of the harassment from you guys. And not only that, when an officer came on my driveway, when I specifically said, don't leave, his response was, I don't even know you. That wasn't it, sir. I told you to get off of my property. Respectfully. And even the fire department had to intervene to tell them. So Stahn, when are you going to investigate or send over a detective so we can have when our rights have been infringed on? Or are we just going to pretend and you're just going to keep ignoring this?
All right, well, there was a lot that was said right there, so I'm going to...
It's nothing new.
I'm going to try to address this from the things that you had just said.
No, Stahn, when do we get the investigator?
Well,
exactly.
With regards to the complaints about your neighbors and having them charged with filing a false police report, that will not happen simply because what they were calling in for what they perceived was a violation. We determined in certain instances that it was not. That does not mean that they did not reasonably perceive that what was taking place could have been a violation. So that will not be investigated as a potential violation because there has been something going on for which they have called in. So that won't be investigated outside of what it already has been, right? They call to report it. We investigate it. We may find that by the time we get there, something wasn't happening, or we get there and there is music, but it's not to the level where it could be considered criminal. And there's times where we've arrived and the calls we have determined have been of that level. So we are investigating a report that was made that was not necessarily made maliciously or erroneously. With regards
malicious,
to,
did you listen to? I believe one of the 911 report says music is playing. They want to know, the resident wants to know what the sheriff is going to do about them. The recorded cameras that you had with Chelsea Van Isle, Roble said, don't worry, if we can't get them on this, hold on, let me turn off the recording so I can get them on that. So Stahn, I'm really giving you a good chance here to not be all buddy boy. And I'm saying, save your ass
we're
here.
Being mistreated. Come differently than our neighbors, and we're asking for a fair treatment. That is it. That is simply what we're asking for. And you know what? You might not perceive it as a threat or any harassment or anything wrong when you guys are sitting on the other street. When my kids go to the kitchen to get a drink of water and they see 2 cop cars sitting on the other block staring in our house,
and they run screaming
in our house for something as simple as maybe they had a movie on too loud and our neighbor didn't like it for whatever reason. Why don't you ask our neighbors when's the last time they actually came over and knocked on the door and said, hey guys, that's a little loud, or can you please turn something down? Because
I've been asked twice. I've been asked twice to turn down the music. Both times I turned down the music by my neighbors. And I have it a witness. So I don't want to hear your other bullshit, Stahn, because I know you're a politician and I have a feeling you're trying to go for Cameron's job. My question is when can we speak to an investigator about the harassment that we are receiving and the evidence that we have?
I will run that up my chain because this has.
Any citizen who calls, does it have to be run up the chain? Any citizen that calls, does it have to be run up the chain, or is it just because my last name's Scaro?
No, in this circumstance, I believe it does because I am also not the investigative sergeant to be able to assign something. And given
but you signed all of the investigative tickets for us. You told us on letters
I have written police reports.
You wrote letters saying we did an investigation. Interesting. Yes, I have all of your original police. It's okay. It'll come out in public record. We're taking this to jury, baby.
Yes, it will come out in public record.
Yes, it will.
Police procedure, which you are mistaken on how that exactly works.
I know you love to call me mistaken, don't you?
So what's the next step?
I will speak to the sheriff about
Jason
how
Cameron.
he would like to proceed with this.
Mm-hmm.
I will speak to Sheriff Cameron about how he would like to proceed with this with regards to having an investigator to contact you. But I want to touch though on something that you had both just said. And because and I know you do not believe me, but I want to find a workable resolution here where you can get along with your neighbors and we do not get involved.
They don't like us because we're Mexican. So
my question to you is, if we receive a call again, like what we did today, where there is loud music, how would you, we receive a law enforcement call that we are obligated, the same call as we receive it to anybody else. But if we receive one to your residence, how would you prefer us to respond to that, to determine if there is something that is a violation or not? I'm seeking your input as to how you would like.
I have a perfect answer for this. I have a Hennepin County sheriff and a Wright County sheriff and a Minneapolis, and all of them said they would actually be going after the neighbors to say, stop calling about music. That is not a good thing. And the ambulance driver himself yesterday said that actually the sheriff is the one that needs to put the stop to the calls over music. So this is, since for the very fact that you're unable to stand up on your own thing and stick up to you want me, the bullied neighbor, to tell my bullies what to say. And I am going to respectfully say, no, Sergeant Stahn, you are not even worthy of sergeant. You're police officer. do what your peers would do. I can very easily get together a meeting with a Wright County sheriff, a Hennepin County sheriff, a Minneapolis police, and a conflict resolution mediator, and we can talk about how all the other police departments do it. But for the very fact that you are asking for a specific rule just for our family, singles out our family, and violates not only our civil rights but our due process. So thank you for saying on tape that you wanted us to give you a way to go under and supersede our due process and civil rights. You have a fantastic day, Sergeant Stahn, because we learned that you really don't believe we have the same rights. Would you like me to set up that? Would you like me to set up that meeting? Would you like me to set up that meeting with the other sheriffs? Because I believe it's a sheriff meeting, a question, not a citizen. I will gladly set it up. I have a Wright County sheriff that is willing to speak. I have a Hennepin County sheriff that is willing to speak. I have a Minneapolis police officer. I will gladly set that up. What days are available for you?
Well, I know the last time that we spoke about this, would your attorney be present? I mean, just pick a day, Ms. Scarrow. I will notify my sheriff, and we will go from there.
Perfect. I will contact the other sheriffs, and we will come to a meeting, and maybe you guys can stop practicing systemic discrimination. How's that sound?
Okay. All right. We're receiving calls for service that we are responding to based on your behavior.
What behavior now?
I'm just saying that's what our call is for. You say it's.
You said it's you, but you said it was music.
You
said it was music. Now you're saying it's behavior. Music and behavior are two different things. Can you clarify?
You are the person who chooses to play the music, or is coming from your home.
Is it against the law to play music?
At certain volumes, to the point where it is disturbing, we have determined that yes, in Carver County, at least
what volume?
This has to still play out through the.
What volume and what decimal? I haven't seen those. I haven't seen those.
We'll let that play out through the court process, Mrs.
I haven't seen those.
Is there anything
decimals.
else that we can discuss here that you would like to discuss?
How many other crimes would you like to accuse me of? I think it was 4 this phone call.
All right. Thank you very much. You have a safe rest of your day.
You'll see this on Facebook.
I know I will.
Yeah. Bye.